Hello, and welcome to Sound Off with System One. I'm your host, Krista Kornchuk, and I'm here today with our panel of experts to discuss your biggest interview and resume questions. That means if you're tuning in live, you can send us your most pressing job search related questions, and we will answer them right here. But before we get started, here are a few words about System One. System One is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life science, and government sectors, putting more than 650 employees and 9,000 contractors to work in the United States, Canada, and the UK. As you're tuning in today, please join us in the comments. Our marketing team will be monitoring them. Let us know where you're joining from and what industry you work in. And as I said before, we encourage you to send us your most pressing job search related questions, as this week's episode is a live Q&A. Before we get started with our questions, I'd like to have our panel of experts introduce themselves. Our panel will also be sharing their hot jobs, which you can find at the bottom of the screen or by scanning the QR code. And to view all other available jobs, please visit jobs.system1.com. Maggie, we'll start with you.
Hi, good afternoon. Maggie Marroquin, Director of Accounting and Finance Services in Houston, Texas.
Perfect. And what's your hot job, Maggie?
The job that I am looking for folks for, it's an accounting manager role with a midstream oil and gas company. Hands-on opportunity, month-end close management, leadership of a small support staff, working closely with the company CFO. They're big on soft skills, personality, great executive leadership exposure. He prefers a CPA, but definitely someone with a public accounting background would be helpful. Would love to talk to referrals or connect with anybody on that job. So they're ready to move.
Awesome. Rich?
Okay. Rich Carver, sales manager here in Pittsburgh, our corporate office. I have two hot jobs. One is a groundwater and environmental, groundwater and water resources engineer. It's a contract to perm position based out of Austin, Texas, and exciting company, a consulting company. So a great opportunity. I can put you in touch with members of my team to discuss that. Secondly, here in Pittsburgh, we're looking for an electrical engineering manager for one of our clients located north of Pittsburgh. That's into like bioenergy field. So yeah, great, two great opportunities.
Fantastic. And again, if you want to view these jobs, you can scan the QR code or go to jobs.system1.com. We're going to get started with our topic, but first, I would like to have our panel of experts share a tip or a common question that they are running into from candidates. While they're sharing these questions or tips, please start sending us your questions and we will start putting them on the screen and answering them right away. Maggie, what's a tip that you've been sharing with job seekers recently?
So recently, I have seen a shift kind of in the Houston market anyway. There's a lot of clients out there. Oftentimes, when it's an employer market, they have their list of demands in the job description. When it's a candidate market, that kind of shifts. And so companies have to be more flexible in what it is that they're looking for. And sometimes as a recruiter, it's kind of getting both sides to kind of see the benefit in being flexible in that. But one of the things that I'm seeing is clients are becoming more and more flexible on degree requirements, which is interesting. I think Houston is a very degree focused area. And with the market being tight for accounting and finance folks, they're open to seeing candidates with the experience and the soft skills in lieu of the degree in certain instances. So that's kind of been a shift there. And that's been really exciting. Another thing that I share with candidates, right? Like social media is all the rage, right? Like everybody's on Insta and Facebook and all of that. So as you're looking for a job, I encourage you very much to make your profiles private, make your social media presence private. When it comes to LinkedIn is very much a professional platform. It is not to find your next Tinder date, right? It's keep that professional. And then keep the other things, social media on that side of things, keep those locked down in private. But one thing with LinkedIn, you want to make sure that on LinkedIn, your profile has, it very much mirrors your resume. as far as, the dates and your titles and your employers. So you want to make sure that's lined up. But you want to make sure there's an up-to-date, recent headshot, preferably, right? Picture on your LinkedIn profile as well. When I send resumes to clients, I will often, put your whoever's LinkedIn, link on the submission as well, because they're gonna, whether you like it or not, they're gonna go and pull you up and see what your online presence is, right? And so you want to make sure that picture is professional and it screams, professionalism and not party girl. Um, One thing I've noticed too, I mean, AI is getting very popular. So the picture that you have, I'm all about the filters and, tweak this and touch that and trim this, right? But make sure it's a realistic representation of you. AI has a mind of its own sometimes and can get super crazy and artificial. So you want to make sure you're not trying to cover anything up, right? I'm all about the glam and the gloss, but sometimes too much is too much.
Okay. Great points. I would say for me, people always ask about their resumes and how to coordinate their resumes. One of the things I would say not to do, well, the LinkedIn profile, that's great and have the link on for that, but don't put pictures on your resume. Make your resume basic, pretty straightforward, get to the points of what you're looking for, what type of job, be as descriptive as possible. I like a little summary at the top because it has your skill set, which you look for, and then kind of detail each job. But sometimes people put a lot of graphs and colorful, and I think that's great if you're going for like a artistic type of job. But if you're going for engineering or any other types of jobs, I don't think that's necessary. So be as simple and straightforward as you can.
I think those are some great points too. I wanted to throw in there, make sure your email address is appropriate as well, right? Make sure it sounds professional. You don't want it to be, partier 2000, right? You want it to be like john.doe@gmail.com or whatever, just something simple and professional and not easy or not, too wild and too far out there. And then also too, I given today's climate, it still amazes me that people still put their physical address on their resume. And I just, to me, that's a big no-no, right? Just for security reasons. Nobody needs to know where you live, unless it's your employer, right? So just, city, state, zip code to give a roundabout idea. In Houston, it's the greater Houston area. Everybody's all about commute. So if you put like Northwest Houston and the zip code, we're going to know where you are. We're going to know, what that commute would potentially look like to our job. So no need to list your physical address.
Awesome. Thank you for that insight. Definitely something we can all learn from. And it looks like we have a lot of questions rolling in. So let's get started. Yeah, Sarah's asking how to present yourself on a resume if you do short-term 90-day contracts. Great question, Sarah.
I can jump in there. One of the things I have my candidates do is they're kind of wrapping up a contract role, or if they go from project to project, sometimes you want to list that company, right? Just from an industry perspective. But oftentimes I will have candidates, if they were laid off in their last role, then the position above that could be like consulting engagements. And then you could put, now or current, the date today to present, right? So it says you're currently working, and then just put ABC Energy, your functional title and what you're doing in that role. And then if you happen to wrap this job up and get another contract, it's still going to group the tenure together, but not look so choppy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's another good point. And yeah, I would do the same thing. List maybe put it under one heading and list everything underneath, and then also make sure that you have reasons, that if the employer, because the employer will ask, why'd you have so many short-term jobs, even though it's presented on there. So make sure you have good, valid reasons, and you can explain, hey, I'm a contractor for these several jobs. So.
Awesome. And Sarah has another question. How long should the resume be? 10 or more years, especially if you are seeking opportunities longer than a 10-year resume? Great question.
I can jump in there.
Okay.
Until you stop me, I'm
letting you take the lead.
No, I think that's a really great question. Employers are more than likely looking at what you've been doing the last 5 to 7 years, right? And so typically a 2-page resume is going to be their limit in the attention span that you get, right? And it's hard when you have 25 plus years of experience to slam all of that into 2 pages and to not go back that far. So what I encourage candidates to do, depending on their level, right? If you're a senior contributor and you've got 20 years of experience, get it down to 2 pages. And anything on the second page, you want to leave a little, I call them Easter eggs, on the first page, right? So like if you're selling your experience over your education, more than likely your education is going to be somewhere at the bottom of the second page. So in your summary, put degreed accounting and finance professional, yada, yada. So that little Easter egg would be degreed, and then they can flip to the second page and see where you went to school. But, unless your tenure, if you spent 7 years at one company, 5 years at the next, and 10 years at them, we're done, right? But if it's 2 years here, 3 years here, 5 years here, then maybe you go back a little bit further. The other thing too that I encourage candidates to do is, you always want to have several copies of my resume from my very first job, right? Just to keep it in chronological order and what I was doing. Always have like a master resume. And then as you apply to positions, right, just what cuts off at 2 pages. But if you're cutting off a particular industry experience from 15 years ago, although it may have changed, put that Easter egg on the front page. And the summary, talk about degreed accounting and finance professional, 25 plus years of experience in various industries, including retail services, banking, oil and gas, energy, right? So when they don't see the financial services listed as one of your employers, it gives them an opportunity to ask and say, hey, I see here you have financial services, but where was that? And then you get to kind of tell the story in your time with them.
Yeah, I think a 1 page is best. I mean, 10 years is for me is probably about the limit to go back. And then even, like I said, you can at the very end just make a listing of what if it's more than 10 years, because a lot of times there's something that you did 10 years ago that maybe the employer will say like, well, that was 10 years ago. It's not as relevant now. So I think a nice 1 page with a good summary where you can scan through right quickly and things are going to jump out at you, what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And it's more optimized for recruiting software, which is fantastic. How best to present yourself on a resume and interview if you have struggled to find a new position and have been unemployed for an extended period of time? Great question, Scott.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I feel like kind of post-pandemic, I've seen that more and more, right? Like in the pandemic, people were trying to, figure out what the new normal was, right? Like whether it was playing teacher because they had kids in school, or, taking care of a family relative or what have you. There are some gaps there because of that. And I think kind of default, I know default for me, I don't want to speak for employers, but if there was a gap in employment anywhere around 2020, 2021, I think everybody's mind kind of goes to pandemic was a crazy time. Not sure what happened. I know a lot of people got laid off during that time, and we're trying to juggle so many different things. And so I think it depends on, the situation. I would get ahead of the questions that everybody wants to know the second they see your resume anyway. So in your summary, maybe change that to an objective, or just say, a little bit about yourself and then talk about why you've been unemployed, extensive background in accounting and finance, looking for X, Y, and Z after, a break from the market to focus on raising kids or something along that, right? Like get the elephant, address the elephant in the room immediately on paper if it's a struggle for you to get these conversations going with potential employers, because that's probably what's hanging them up, right? Like I've seen that with, moms that had an amazing career and then decided to start a family, stepped away for 5 years. Well, we need a story. We need to know why, it is. And then I would say too, if it's an extended amount of time and you've been removed from the market, be flexible as much as you can from, what the next opportunity looks like to get back in there, if it's contract or direct, right? And from a compensation perspective, you just want to get the conversation going with a hiring manager, with a company that's hiring.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I agree with everything that Maggie said. It's pretty much as long as you have a reason, address the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
and that's the best thing to do.
Absolutely. And how many years back on a LinkedIn profile? I believe Susan is referring to professional experience. So, any insight on that from all of you?
I would
Um,
just make it match the resume.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I wouldn't. Again, it's like people. I don't know if everybody's like me, but attention span, especially when you're looking for people and you have a lot of activity with resumes, you want something that's going to catch your eye quick, and you don't want myself personally. I don't look back 20 years. I'm not real concerned with what somebody did 25 years ago. So I would say, yeah, just a short professional, like Maggie said earlier, a nice picture, professional picture. I mean, you don't have to have a suit and tie, but don't put a picture up there, holding a beer or something. So, but yeah.
Fantastic. And do most companies use ATS software to review the resumes? Awesome question.
Um, I don't know about most. I think that's definitely common, right, for them to track candidates on their side. What's frustrating to me is, if they say, this is required, these are the requirements of the role, and if you don't, have that as a requirement, sometimes you get kicked right out, right? Like it won't let you move forward, or it won't let you apply, or it'll take your application, and then 5 seconds later, you get that system generated email that says thanks but no thanks. And that is incredibly frustrating. So, I would ensure that as needed, you kind of tailor your resume towards the job description that you're applying to. Or better yet, partner with a recruiter that has a relationship with companies across the board. Because, I'm going to be honest, I love working with HR when it is very much kind of a partnership. But my point, my goal all day is to get in touch with the hiring manager so we can talk accounting. I was in accounting for 10 plus years. I can speak it. So I want to talk to the hiring manager. I want to talk accounting. I can speak that language. And so that more often than not, that's who my contacts are these accounting managers. And, we rope in HR and include them, depending on their process. But you want to partner with somebody who has those established relationships that can get you past the ATS system, right?
Yes. Same here. Now my expertise is engineering and manufacturing, and we're always looking to talk to the engineering managers, manufacturing managers, plant managers. And the ATS does come into play sometimes, but a lot of times, in my experience, I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, "Well, make sure they apply to this too." It's kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah.
But I think we get the most information out of talking to the managers and working with a HR department that is collaborative with us as well. So
Absolutely.
Definitely. And as an applicant, you have a better chance of getting in front of those hiring managers if you work with a recruiter. I mean, that's just a fact. It's very competitive out there. How would you go about showing the fact that you worked at the exact same role at the same site for 20 years with multiple employers supporting government contracts? Great question, Ryan.
I'll jump in there. So I do see that, where candidates have been, maybe like a specialist and then promoted to senior and then maybe promoted to manager, right? And it's been an extensive amount of time. And so I do prefer a bullet pointed resume versus the paragraph form. It's just so much easier to read. And when you're applying to these positions, the hiring manager is looking at many resumes at a time, ideally. So if you can bullet point, be precise but detailed, that is going to be the preferred format all day. But you want to plug in what we call ROIs, those return on investment statements, right? So if you were in the same or similar position for 20 plus years and it was literally the exact same role, okay, that's not as exciting. Whereas if you were a part of a project year 2 or year 3, a system implementation, a special project to clean up inventory or something like that, you want to talk about those ROIs. And anytime, especially in my world, accounting and finance, anytime you can quantify and qualify, you want to do that because your audience is very numbers driven. So talk about those cost savings. And so rather than continuously have the same bullet points for each role or throughout your 20 years, talk about those ROIs. If you were, like I said, if you were with them for 20 years and you promoted 5 times, right, in some kind of capacity or in some type of mentor leader kind of role, then I would talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. And again, the bullet points are very. I love bullet points, so your eye goes right to the exact experience and what they're looking for, what they need, and yeah, that's about all I have to say on that one.
And I think when in doubt, when you're crafting these resumes, think about how you would like to consume content and how you're consuming content every day. Typically, it's more short and concentrated. So someone viewing a bunch of resumes in one day is going to feel the same way. It looks like we have one more question. I'm not sure if it's popping up on the screen or not, but the question is, what would be the best way to initiate conversations with hiring managers?
Again, I'm going to default to partner with a recruiter that you can develop a rapport and a relationship with, that gets to know you, your skill set, what's important to you in your next role. So as those opportunities come across their desk, you're the first person they think of. Having said that, there are some companies out there that have a large internal recruitment team and they don't leverage our services. They're lost, but a great way for you to kind of get in touch with them on your own, to me, it's LinkedIn all day. I encourage candidates, if they see a position posted, we don't work with them because they don't leverage our service or what have you. I encourage them to apply to the position and then do some professional stalking. Go to LinkedIn, see if you can find out who that potential hiring manager would be title wise, and send them an invite, and then send them an email and say, hey, I saw you guys had, X position posted. I already applied, very interested in the opportunity, would love to discuss this with you at your convenience, and send them your resume. Again, they probably have a large recruitment team in-house. You're kind of doing that person's job for them, but who cares? You're just trying to get a conversation going with the manager.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And yeah, I use LinkedIn a lot in the same way to engage customers and new clients. So I think if you're as a job seeker, and then look and see, maybe look at their LinkedIn, look at something that maybe you guys have some common interests or something, or just do a little bit of research on the person and send the invite and put something in there of interest to them.
Absolutely. I always say set aside a time each day for LinkedIn. Okay, looks like we have one more question. I'm interviewing for roles, making a career switch from controls engineering to project management. What would employers say? Sorry, looking for someone switch. What would you say to employers if you're looking to switch fields? Thank you, Carrie.
I think if you just explain, what your reasoning is and why you're looking to change, and give them a little background, be honest and upfront, and yeah.
I agree. I'm all about transparency, open, honest communication. Obviously, you want to tailor your responses to the job open, right? But just maybe give a little bit of an overview on why you want to make the career change or switch or transition over, and how you feel your skill set is going to transfer into that type of role, right? If you're having the conversation with the hiring manager, they're clearly interested. And so it could be more of an exploratory conversation to see if it makes sense on both sides. So open, honest, transparent, find those similarities, see if it works.
Absolutely. And before I was in marketing, I was in sales for 8 years, and, this switch was intimidating, but there's a lot of transferable skills. So
Yeah.
addressing the elephant in the room is always key.
Always.
Great. Well, thank you so much to everyone who commented. We are out of time for today, but thank you for our expert panel. We really enjoyed your insight, and we're looking forward to having you back on Sound Off. Don't forget to follow System 1 on LinkedIn if you haven't already. Just by following us, you will automatically be entered into our contest giveaway to win the drone. Who doesn't want to win a drone? Also, subscribe on our YouTube channel, System One. You can see past Sound Off with System One episodes for more career and job seeker topics. And make sure you tune in to Sound Off with System One every first and third Friday at 2 p.m. Our next Sound Off with System One live stream is Friday, May 3rd at 2 p.m., and we will be discussing what to do if you lose your job. See you then.